So Shaw was left drugged and waiting to be put into the hypersleep. They've called it cryo in this movie. I admit I just stuck with the old term from the other movies. But anyway, she figures these people do not have her best interests at heart. So she fights them off and runs for it. She goes to Chekhov's med pod, only it's not programmed for OBGYN, so it can't remove the embryo or whatever you want to call it. We'll call it Damien under the circumstances. So she checks the dishes on the menu and finds foreign body removal. Close enough. Well, the gender reveal is squid. This next part, I don't even know what to tell you. They start getting feed from the geologist's suit cameras right outside the ship. When they open the hangar door to check, they find the guy in sort of a contortionist pile. Then upon seeing the members of the crew, stands up, reveals that he's been kind of monsterized a little bit, and then he starts kicking people's asses. Almost like evil Spider-Man the way it's going around here. Their dead colleagues slaughtering people. Well, it just causes one line to repeat in my head.
I think it's safe to assume it isn't a zombie.
You know you're in prequel territory when you lose track of the genre. This is apparently supposed to suggest that when it comes to engineered technology, we don't know what we're dealing with. At the same time, it's a bit hard to swallow that this has so many one-off results without a sense of any underlying logic to it. Unless the major theme had been, we are tampering with things beyond our comprehension, you can't get away with something like this. Not unless we're talking Jurassic Park laser focus upon that theme. And even it had the good sense to establish dinosaur capabilities. They didn't all of a sudden sprout wheels and start driving around like cars, did they? I'm not saying it's completely absent, of course, but it's a minor sub-theme. When the major theme is the issue of creation. What does a creator owe to their creation? What rights does a creator have over their creation? What happens when creation produces something wrong? What obligations does the created have towards its creator? Those are big questions. Super zombie geologist doesn't really fit. It's something scary needs to happen. Something scary needs to attack the humans. Well, gosh, I get the conundrum that they were facing here. If only this was a franchise where when something forces its tube down your throat, then a monster gets created that could go menace people, huh? Well, rotten luck that we can't reasonably find that. We're going to have to settle for zombie. Well, back in the Shaw plot, now that she's dealt with her own personal Squid Games, she returns to the medical area to find Mr. Wayland alive after all. He's been in hypersleep so that he can meet one of the engineers, in the belief that they can make him immortal. Shaw says, no, they were wrong, very wrong about what the engineers are. The engineers are pricks. We were made by pricks. Obviously, a prick played a part in all of our makings, but you get the point. The engineers are not benevolent creators, and we're, for some reason, really into wriggly things.
We must leave.
And what would Charlie do now?
Well, that's hardly a handy guide. If I thought what Charlie Holloway would do, it'd only be to do the exact opposite.
We believe that the purpose of science is to serve mankind. You, however, seem to regard science as some kind of dodge or hustle.
While she's suiting up to join in, the captain pops in to share what he's figured out. This isn't the engineer's home. It's a military installation with WMDs. Why they would repeatedly point primitive humans towards this place is another thing to file under. Oh, can't understand them.
Don't you want to know what they have to say?
I don't care.
Right.
Except, yeah, I'm kind of in there with him. I mean, if I was talking to God, the supreme creator of the universe, then yes, I would want to ask some questions, sure. But this is just aliens who created us in this setting, and I'm not expecting answers that I'll be happy to hear. That's the point with David. He can ask his maker why it was made, and the answer is disappointing. With a divine being, you can ask, why am I here specifically? With an alien, they can only answer broad stroke stuff about humanity, and you just sort of popped out at the end as a completely unplanned consequence. I'm not trying to debate religion or anything here, but rather get into the philosophical aspects of consideration. There are so many answers to the question, why were we created, from a limited mortal creator, that are going to be profoundly disappointing. Yes, it could maybe be something beautiful that will motivate us to move beyond our conflicted nature and usher in an age of harmony. And if so, I'll leave someone else to have the honor of bringing that answer back. To demonstrate my case for me, Vickers has a one-on-one conversation with Wayland about the pointlessness of this. When are you going to just up and die, a withered old fart? She's not inheriting the company until he's dead, though. She'd be stuck waiting to see the outcome of this fool's errand, so that's why she's here. As for David, with Wayland being close to the end, and thus the one keeping him in check, he seems in agreement with Vickers.
I suppose I'd be free.
You want that?
Want. Not a concept I'm familiar with. That being said, doesn't everyone want their parents dead?
Like I said, evil robot. Still better than most of the humans, though. When Shaw and the captain see the cargo hold filled with those canisters, it really brings home the point that nothing can leave this planet. This is apocalypse in a can. The fact the course was for Earth, that seals the deal. I don't think talking to this guy is going to give you answers, not unless it's a long airing of grievances before killing you. But we won't let that stop us. Wayland's on death's door already. He doesn't have much to lose. Honestly, that went better than I thought. Well, Wayland is already in a state where he wished he was as young and hale as Mr. Burns, so it doesn't take much for him to croak, which is the sign it's time to head home as far as Vickers is concerned. Unfortunately, the engineer has the same idea, summoning the big chair to pilot the ship to Earth to spread that toxic shit everywhere. Shaw managed to haul ass out of there, but the place is opening up to let the ship out. So this has gone from survival horror to a platformer. She makes clear the stakes, and Vickers doesn't seem convinced. She seems to be more of the opinion that money will protect her. She's learning the hard way. No, it doesn't work. The captain is going to use this ship to take out the engineer one, and it's not a combat ship, so there's really only one way to do it, and there's no walking away from it. That is kind of a downer, but one silver lining is it means Vickers can't sue when she makes it back home, and she would definitely sue. This is someone who sees lawyers as blunt objects. This is someone who chains two lawyers together to use as nunchucks. Vickers barely gets into his suit and into the escape pod before the ship has a head-on collision with the aliens, though one part of the ship does survive. It was mentioned at the beginning that Vickers' quarters were in an escape module, so that gets dropped on the surface first. And speaking of dropping, the hit is successful and the ship falls out of the air sideways, where it begins rolling at the two women who are left. In the most infamous moment from the film, they choose to run in the direction the ship is rolling rather than at a 45-degree angle or 90, depending on how close it was at the start. I mean, granted, they weren't running in the direction of it, but all things considered, this probably wasn't the smartest move. Shaw comes to the realization first that this is a losing strategy and thus survives, while Vickers gets smushed. May have been the fast way, though, because all that's left is that module. So that gives her some oxygen, some supplies.
And my axe.
As I said before, the major theme is not we're messing with things we don't understand. It's that of creator and creation. And let's be clear, there is plenty of subtext on this point, and perhaps best symbolized in this confrontation, because Shaw finds out that the squid is not dead, and nor is the engineer pilot, and both are after her. Her in conflict with that which gave her life, and the one that she unwittingly gave life to. So she leaves it to the two of them to sort this out. Well, with all options exhausted, when David offers her a way off this planet, Shaw considers her options and decides to go along with it. But not to go back to Earth, but to go to the engineer's homeworld.
They created us. Then they tried to kill us. They changed their minds. I deserve to know why.
All right, because going to your creators to ask them questions worked out really well here, didn't it? The best writing advice I ever got was, good ideas do not a story make. It's not enough to have good ideas, it's how you use them. The problem isn't that this film is without ideas, or even that it has the wrong ideas. It's that it thinks ideas are enough. layered on top of one another and trying to contort to the demands of a narrative. This film is like watching someone trying to make origami using a Big Mac. The film has strong reviews, but they are about the style, which is, of course, a perfectly valid point. But it is a style offering the illusion of depth rather than actual depth. It talks a lot while saying nothing. Let me be clear on that. It's not that the film doesn't give answers. It's that it doesn't really even consider the questions. It's not that the film is bad so much as slop. Coincidentally, last month an article came out on how well the film had aged, which as far as style goes, I agree, and that it's intellectually stimulating, which I don't. Which isn't a serious problem for me, as I generally don't find the Alien franchise intellectually stimulating. I find it engaging. However, the fact the work goes for subtext in some places undermines that it is gibberingly, blitheringly stupid in others. I guess you could say it falls between two stools for me. If it hadn't bothered to try so hard to be smart, it wouldn't have called attention to how dumb it often is. That David survives to continue in Alien Covenant is the film's most redeeming aspect. He's the most interesting character by far in this film. In fact, I'd go so far as to say he's more interesting than all the other characters put together. And I'll go out on a limb here and give you my hot take. I prefer Covenant to Prometheus. I find it more focused, more intimate, darker, and I say, if you were ever to want to include them in a marathon, skip Prometheus, hit Covenant in a vacuum, see David as a complex yet clear-cut antagonist. Then watch Prometheus, but purely as a villain origin story. When viewed as Covenant's prequel, David's actions take on greater meaning. Washing Wayland's feet, for instance, is a sign of relation between creator and creation, yet Wayland presumes to approach his own creator to ask to be given things, rather than asking what is wanted from their creation. Likewise, Holloway acts like an asshole towards David, yet mopes around in a drunken fit of pique that his own creators weren't there to answer his questions. The privileged view as a creator is seen to have taken root in David in Covenant, and these are more interesting and satisfying in reverse viewing order, to see how the monster was born because we were monsters ourselves, as were our creators before us. To repeat, I don't consider Prometheus a bad film, and I don't hate watching it, but ultimately, watching unlikable people get themselves killed didn't make for the most pleasant viewing experience. I don't hold it against the film that it isn't Alien or Aliens. It's just that even taken on its own merits, I find it wanting.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord! I know we've had our differences,